Mordy, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Very well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time today. It's your profile. When I had a look at your profile, in fact, I think I came across you on, it might have been on the social media site. I forget which one, but I thought, very interesting. And then I checked out your LinkedIn, and I was like, wow, this is a very interesting profile because I have this
I'm
series
very good
work.
optimizing my LinkedIn profile.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Hopefully, I'm as
This
interesting as a guest as my LinkedIn profile makes me out to be.
this series I have working with SEOs. I want it focused on professionals' experience working with SEOs, and your profile was just it jumped out at me as a perfect profile because you have a very um, interesting background in that you've worked very closely with SEOs for a very long time. Why SEO?
Yeah. I got into like SEO itself sort of accidentally. I was working for a educational software company. I used to be a teacher a long, long, long time ago.
Right.
And I was one of the only native English speakers at the company, and I was writing educational, guidance for teachers and that kind of stuff. And they said, "Hey, could you write our web content?" I'm like, "Look, I could write anything. I'm a top tier writer. Like I don't want to toot my own horn here a little bit, but I'll write anything." Like, great. We want you to write, and we want you to bring in organic traffic. I'm like, what's that? And that's how I got started in SEO. I just kind of like fell into it from the content side, and one thing led to another, and I've somehow like ended up in a lot of these roles where I'm working in SEO product, or I'm working on marketing an SEO product, or I'm working on a lot of like SEO content, so content marketing around SEO, as well as like for example, I used to work for a company called Rank Ranger. I managed their blog. I was writing content, creating content, trying to rank content at the same time, and because of that, I started to need to network a little bit. And then I started working with SEOs, not just from the industry as an SEO, but also as a marketer trying to move a brand forward within the SEO sphere.
Right.
Now I've done that already. I'm at Wix now, the third company I've kind of done this with. And it is a weird kind of role. There's very few of us out there who do this kind of thing, and we all come from SEO from some way or another. And we end up in these roles where either, like, I'm thinking of, like, Dr. Pete over at Moz, let's say, for example,
Yeah.
where you've sort of worked in SEO from a different kind of view, say from a product point of view. And once you're working in SEO from a product point of view, that naturally feeds into SEO from a marketing point of view. So
Right.
there's a few of us here and there, and we end up dealing with the SEOs.
Now, at Wix, I've seen you guys have ramped up your marketing and particularly with SEO. And I was curious, why SEO rather than any other channels? Walk me through that aha
Well,
moment
it's
where when you thought SEO is the one I'm going to use.
So I don't think it's just SEO. I think SEO has been one of the verticals we've been very, very, very successful with it. I would say it all fundamentally goes back down to the user, right?
Right.
There's an intrinsic understanding between pretty much everyone that if I have a website, there's a very strong, I'll say almost intrinsic relationship between the website and Google. Like these two things are very connected, like at the hip kind of thing. As opposed to, let's say, social. As a business, I might need social. My website is not tied to social media the same way as it is to Google. And I think there's an expectation among people who are creating websites that if I create a website, it should be able to perform well on search engines, on Google in particular. So there's a natural relationship between a website builder like Wix and SEO. Different, not saying there isn't one between them and social, but different from other verticals. I say it's very similar to like a website builder and dev, or a website builder and site performance. Website builder and SEO is kind of like you have to go hand in hand because that's what you are.
Yeah, I completely agree because SEO, I think marketers tend to look at SEO as a marketing channel. And it absolutely is a marketing channel,
Yeah.
but it's unique in that it's more than a marketing channel. What I mean by that is, as you just mentioned, it's very linked with a website itself. So if you have a website, as I always say, if you have a website and you want to acquire traffic via the website, you need SEO. It's not just from a marketing point of view, but from a, let's say, a development point of view, you need SEO. And other areas outside of marketing, it's the one channel, one marketing channel that functions outside of marketing. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
No,
Didn't
no,
mean to
no,
cut
no,
you off.
go for it.
I'm just gonna say that, it's one kind. SEO is kind of the thing, or Google, let's say, is sort of a thing where if I have a website put up out there, and I have, let's say, someone links to my website, so I don't even need to submit the website to Google. I don't have to submit a sitemap to Google. Google can still find me, and even if I've done nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I put a link out there on social media, promoting my services. Someone saw that. Someone linked to it on their site. Google crawled their site, saw a link to my site. Google followed that link to my site, found my site, crawled and indexed it. And I did nothing.
Yeah.
So I think there's a very strong, different kind of connection between a search engine and a website. And that's sort of why we've doubled down not on SEO marketing, on SEO dev, since I would say circa 2019. For all sorts of users. We've doubled down on it for business owners, large business owners, small business owners, agencies, individual creators. And we've tried to create a product that works for everybody at all levels. I'll try to give you like an example of that. So let's say redirects. We've implemented bulk redirects. You can upload 500 redirects through a CSV. Tell us what the redirects are. Great, done. You can do, but when we do that, by the way, we'll check for redirect loops and we'll check for errors. So if you're not a professional and you are using that tool, we'll make sure that you don't, end up with a bunch of 404s. We'll also automatically redirect a URL that you change on multiple types of pages. So for example, on product pages, if you change a URL, we automatically implement a 301 redirect. You have to do nothing. So by the way, that makes it great for SEOs. It makes it great for agencies. You're working at if you're working at scale, and you're updating all these URLs, you now don't need to spend more time redirecting them. And also, if you're an average user and you're changing the URL for a product, you don't have to worry about implementing a 301 redirect. Most of the time, you probably forget about it. Didn't even know you had to do one. So we do it for you. So we're trying to do things that kind of like democratize SEO and make SEO easier at scale at the same time.
Yeah, that's music to my ears because I've worked with a lot of sites that they have a CMS that was made in the early 90s almost, it seems. I mean, it's very outdated, the CMSs that a lot of sites use. And hearing something like this is just beautiful because this is something that I find very common with business owners in that they invest in SEO, but they look at SEO from what I consider a level 1 point of view. Level 1 is there's an issue with a website, they hire an SEO, they audit the site, let's say from a technical point of view, they carry out a tech audit, and they then spend the next several weeks, most likely months, trying to resolve the issue, trying to actually implement the recommendations. Level 2 is looking at it from a more preventative point of view. So instead of the issue occurring, how can you prevent that issue from occurring in the first place? And that involves more than SEOs, right? That involves all the different departments to have, at the very least, a certain level of understanding of SEO. Are you finding that's a similar thing from your experience as well?
Yeah. That's basically what it is. What we basically do is I take no credit for this. As our head of SEO, not Daily Malach, basically has a score for each type of page. So if you're a product page, if it's a blog page, or let's say it's trying to think, it's the static pages on your website, whatever it is, all different page types, they have an SEO score. And the teams that are responsible for those pages, the dev team responsible for those pages, have to meet the thresholds from the SEO on that SEO score. So if he says your score is a 50 and you need to get to an 80 by the end of the quarter, and you need to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G in order to get there. And we have a whole scoring system, which, by the way, the CEO is backing. So, like, if your product team doesn't improve their SEO score according to what the SEO development team wants, they're in trouble with the CEO of Wix. That's how serious SEO is at Wix. So, yeah, it starts at an SEO development team that has backing and support company-wide with the other development teams.
How is that? How would you recommend SEOs achieve that sort of thing from their point of view in their businesses, having not just the business backing them from a business leadership point of view, but also operationally as well? It's almost like two levels, isn't it? So you have the business invest in SEO in the first place, but then you actually have to get or influence people who operate within SEO or around SEO to actually give a damn about SEO. So how would you recommend SEOs achieve that on those two levels?
So there are a lot of really, really smart SEOs out there. I might even divide them into really, really smart SEOs and SEOs that are really, really good at communicating. And sometimes they're not necessarily the same people.
Yeah.
But you need both of them. And they might not be the same person. It might be a junior on your team happens to be real good at communicating. He may be a junior, she may be a junior. I would give them a little bit of control over the reporting, if that's who they are. Because it's one thing to be great at SEO. It's another thing to be able to communicate the value of that.
Right.
And it's a very different, as a former teacher, it's a very different skill. Being able to communicate things effectively in a methodological, pedagogical way is a unique skill in and of itself. So you can be great at the SEO, but if you can't translate that into a concrete way of presenting that in an easily digestible way that speaks to the audience, you will not get buy-in. Unless the results are so good and are so obvious, how do you get buy-in?
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of SEOs need to focus on their soft skills. I think the industry, we tend to focus on like technical issues and technical solutions to things, almost treating it as SEO is technical. And in a sense, I kind of understand because it is the core of SEO, but there's so much more to SEO than just the technical or even hard skills. Soft skills is a huge area, right?
It's knowing who your audience is. Like, for example, if I'm talking to, let's say, I'm talking to an SEO that's running an enterprise agency, and I'm talking about Wix. I might be talking about the same tool, doing the same thing, but I'm talking from two totally different points of view. Like, for example, like if I'm talking to that kind of agency, then I'm talking about how Wix makes you more efficient and more scalable. Right? What do we do inside the platform that makes your job easier? Like, A, makes it easier to use the client's budget for growth assets as opposed to maintenance, and is able to scale your budget, so you don't have to do X. You can focus your budget on Y instead. If I'm talking, let's say, a content marketing agency, it could be the same tools that we're talking about, but if I'm talking to a content marketing agency, the pain point's different. The pain point of the content marketing agency might be, depending on who they are, you need SEO because you're trying to proliferate content out there. And one of the challenges we mentioned before is SEO. But you're not an SEO. You're a content marketer. Great. There's a lot of things inside of Wix that you can do that happen automatically so that you can sort of focus on the content and dabble in the SEO part. And we try to make it easy for you to understand what those things are. So as opposed to going into it, coding, a robust meta tag, there's a button you click. It's right there. It's easy for you. You can do it. And we kind of like guide you towards doing that. It's the same tool. It's the same thing, but it's different unique selling points of that tool to different audiences. In one case, I'm worrying more about, let's say, the flexibility of the tool and the scalability of the tool. And the other side, I'm talking to the others about the automation that comes along with that tool at the same time. Same tool, two different audiences, two different unique selling points that you have to know who you're talking to and what works for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's appropriating the knowledge share to the audience, isn't it? Now, let's
Yeah,
say,
it's communications, man. That's what it
yeah,
is. Just
communication, yeah.
communicating.
So let's say I'm a CMO. What can I expect from SEO after I've invested in it?
Growth. Now, I'll give you a quick story. Um, there's somebody I know. He's an SEO consultant. And he was telling me I was pitching this really big brand, and I was going up against a ginormous SEO agency. And he was like, "There's no way I'm getting this deal." And in the end, he got it. And he asked like, "What? Why? How did I get this?" And they said the other person you were competing against pitched us an entire SEO audit and very technical and blah 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 blah. You talked to us about how you're going to grow our business. And that was it. Might have been doing the same things, by the way, to grow that business. But
Yeah.
again, if you're talking to a CMO, they don't care about your title tags. They don't care about your redirects. They don't care about any of that. What they care about is when they go to the CEO, they can show that we're making more money and it's because of me. That's what they care about.
Yeah.
So if you can make them look good, then they'll hire you.
Yeah, I find that SEOs, or some SEOs tend not to focus on the storytelling of what they're finding on the site. So let's say a technical audit, for example. I see technical audits out there that says, I don't know, you have 15 canonical errors on the site, and that's bad. And it's like, that doesn't translate very well to like a senior member of a business. That doesn't mean anything, in
No.
fact, because you then have to almost expect the senior leadership to understand what you're saying in the first place, and then digest it to define how important it is for the business. And it is so frustrating, from my experience, when I see business leaders see something like that, and it gets to a point where they just get so fed up with SEO. They almost don't believe in it anymore. They don't want to invest in it anymore. And that is down to SEOs. That's down to us not knowing how to communicate, as you mentioned, communicate effectively,
Yeah, I mean,
appropriately
communicate.
to
It's
the person.
You run an audit, tells you have a broken link. You go to the CMO, you got a broken link. We got to fix this. Okay, what page is it? It's a page that no one goes to, no one's ever gone to, no one
Exactly.
ever will go to. Okay, so you got a broken link, like whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, there are times where even like some audits I do, there are things that I don't even consider anymore, because it's just like it doesn't speak to the business value of anything. It's just so low. And I remember once I did an audit for someone, and they asked me, "What about alt tags?" And I was like, "Alt tags?" And it was like, "Yeah, I don't see any alt tags in this. That's a big issue, isn't it?" And it just goes to show that's something they probably heard at a conference or something, saying alt tags isn't something that you should consider. But it wasn't. It was such a little issue that I didn't even consider it as part of the audit. As in, I saw
But we
it,
have that
but
all the
didn't put
time.
it. Yeah,
Alt text. Oh, big SEO. It's an accessibility issue
yeah.
more than it is an SEO issue. I mean, you should do it for the accessibility. Unless you're really driving image traffic, like, all right.
It's not going
And
to
there's
move the
so many
needle.
things like that. No, we did, Crystal Carter and I, who was the head of communications at Wix, we run a podcast called Surfs Up.
Yeah,
And we
big
did
fan, by the
an
way.
episode on, thank you. We did an episode on SEO audits, and we came up to meta descriptions. And you get in the tools, your meta description is too long. And
Yeah.
my response was, snore. I don't care. Who cares? Who cares if my meta description is too long? Google's rewriting it anyway. And we're putting up and regurgitating it. And why is that even a thing? Why is that a thing? Who cares? Maybe you can find me some like particular scenario where yeah, for the conversions, Google's using the meta description. You really want to move that text that you had at the third line to the first. Fine. But as a rule, snore. Just snore. I don't care.
Yeah, totally agree. Now, there's so much to learn about SEO. Going back to a CMO, for example, they might see it as it's such a huge area of marketing to learn. and it's daunting. They almost don't want to deal with it. And then there is this thinking that, okay, I need to know a certain amount of SEO. Okay, I accept that as a CMO. What amount of information does one need to know as a CMO in order to help SEOs fulfill their role?
I think you need to know frameworks. Like if I'm talking to a client at the end of my report, I'll always put my framework. Like, what's the framework that I'm operating out of? Like, why am I making these recommendations to you? It's because I'm looking at your site and I'm framing it a certain way. Let's say, for example, it's a health site. I'm framing your recommendations, let's say particularly on the content side in this case, because you're a YMYL site. Google's looking at you differently. And because of that, you have goal A and goal B. You need to be trustworthy, you need to show expertise, all that kind of stuff. And because of that, now I have all these recommendations to you. The recommendations you are going to pass on to a developer, you're going to pass on to a content writer, you're going to pass all of that on. And you probably don't care. But what you probably should care about is the framework. Meaning the strategy level. What are we trying to accomplish? And what are the results of that going to be? Whether it be around, and that's for anything, right? That's around branding efforts, that's around like organic traffic efforts, paid efforts. Someone at the C level needs to at least understand why we're doing it and what we're trying to accomplish, which is essentially the framework.
Okay. Let's talk about budget. And us SEOs, it's kind of difficult for us to show direct results like PPC, email, even social, right? Let me see how to phrase this. What can SEOs do to better show how much of a budget we need? So for Wix, for example, you have an SEO background, so you get it, right? So how would you have said to your to business leaders that SEO is something that should be taken seriously, and we need X amount of budget for SEO?
Yep. I'll give you an example. So we have something called the Wix SEO Hub, and it's a hub where you can learn all about SEO for all sorts of users. For if you're new to SEO, if you've been around SEO for a long time, if you're not even an SEO, you're just a business owner. There's all sorts of content for you. And so I'm answering this question, it's all depending upon the goal. What's the goal of this hub? The goal of the hub is not traffic. Obviously, we want traffic, and obviously we're doing it. We're gonna SEO the heck out of it and get traffic, which so far so good. But the budget's not coming from the traffic. The budget I'm not gonna say budget. I'm gonna call it resource allocation.
Right.
Resource allocation and priority. Right? Because you can have the resources, but is it a priority to that team that you're getting it from? Let's say it's design or whatever it is. And it's aligning what you're talking about, what you're communicating back to the goal of whatever asset it is you're working on. In this case, we're doing it for it's an education. It's not an acquisition resource. It's an educational resource. So we need to show back that internal, external people are learning from the hub. And it's also a branding thing. Like, we want to show that we care about SEO. We get SEO. We're concerned with SEO. What better way than dedicating a lot of resources to educating others about SEO? So now you have to report back on that. And now you're stuck. So if I report back on traffic, who cares? I'm not saying who cares. Obviously you care. I'm being a little hyperbolic about it.
Yeah.
But that's not what's going to get me buy-in, because that's not aligned to the goal of what this asset is. But if I have agencies telling me, hey, we're sharing your content with our clients because it's that good, that's going to get me more resources, right? If I see that our users are adopting it, if our users are referencing it, if our users are saying to us, this helped me make a better website, that gets me more resources. So it all depends, right? In an acquisition asset, if I reported back on this, I'd be like, that's really nice, we're so happy, but it's an acquisition effort. So why are you telling me this? So you have to align to the end goal of the resource. And if you don't do that, if you focus on rankings or on traffic or whatever it is, and that's not the end goal, hard to get by and hard to get budget.
You know why SEOs tend to focus on those things, rankings, even links? I reckon we do so because it's an easy way of explaining SEO to non-SEO,
Yeah.
to a senior member. But it's an easy way, but a lazy way.
It's an easy, let's just say, for example, let's make up a scenario, because I agree with you. It's very concrete, and sometimes in SEO we try to be too concrete.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I spun up a website. It gets, I don't know, 100 page visits a minute from organic search. But at the same time, somebody else saw the content on the results page. One person looked at it, went away, came back a month later, and said, you know what, I really appreciated that content. Like, it was good. I like you as a brand. I would not like to invest $1 million in your brand. So, yes, you have great traffic numbers. Those are wonderful. But which matters more to the CMO? So if you're able to report more holistically on what's happening, right? People are finding your pages. What are they doing with it after they find it? Are they sharing that content with their own audiences?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's a big thing. That might not be a conversion. They didn't buy anything, but we're becoming a thought leader because of the content that they're finding. So there's a branding side to it. Mm-hmm. So report on that. If that's applicable, report on the branding side. Don't just limit yourself to traffic if that's not the full story. Be holistic about it. Show the full value. Why wouldn't you?
But so branding, wouldn't that fall within PR? Because you guys, you have, I see that you guys have a very good mix of SEO and PR. And you guys seem to be working very cohesively. But
we look at it as one thing in a lot of ways.
Interesting.
We look at SEO and PR as like one thing.
One thing.
Right? Huh. It's one thing. Like PR, you want to have two parts. You want to have a strong message that aligns to who you are, which then speaks to your target audience, and you want that to resonate.
Yeah.
Right? You really want to talk to people from an identity point of view to their identity. One identity to another identity. Who are we? Who are you? Is that a good match? And then you want to be able to share that message. Like, it's one thing to have the message, and then you need to share it. And this is why I think people get screwed up with brand marketing, because they don't realize there's two steps. People usually focus on brand marketing on the sharing part.
Yeah.
Let's do a brand awareness campaign. Like Coca-Cola is going to do a great campaign, blah, 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 blah. That's only one part of it. The other part is the actual messaging.
Yeah.
But the SEO side comes in the awareness side. You want people, actually it comes in on both sides. It comes in on the awareness because that's one way people can find you. They don't have to just find you on paid. In fact, depending upon your audience, you may not want them to find you on paid. You might want them to find you organically.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're trying to do. And then, if you're a successful business, if you know what you're doing, wouldn't you be ranking?
Yeah.
And I know it's a silly way of framing it, right? But like, if I'm selling chairs and I rank number 300 for chairs, I would say you don't know what you're doing. You're not a good business leader.
Right.
That's not true because you're just not focused on SEO. But there is a perception about the sites that rank well. So it does go into branding. It's really one thing in a lot of ways.
So, see, this is what I mentioned earlier, right? Saying SEO is a lot more than just a typical marketing channel. It's historically used as a reactive channel, or seen as a reactive channel. Something happens and then you do something to improve your SEO. But I love the way you guys use it proactively. And looking at it that way, it makes sense how you guys see SEO and PR pretty much as one. It's so cohesive.
Yeah. I can't go into the details, but like we'll scale back on paid sometimes and go with the SEO instead.
Yeah, see, with a company that has different channels set up, that's almost unheard of with most cases, because let's say, we're at the start of the year, right? Most in, let's say, November, December, most channels were probably fighting for budgets, right? For the year. And because of that, they always have to be isolated from a certain period of time, usually towards the end of the year, whether the calendar year or financial year. And that's a huge shame because it leaves SEO in a very reactive state. And because of that state, SEO is not able to really function as to its fullest potential. And its fullest potential is literally unlimited because there's so much that can be done if only SEOs can be allowed to operate outside of just their silo. What can SEOs do to improve that relationship outside of SEO?
Again, it becomes like in a larger organization, let's say, it all becomes about, it goes back to that communication part. It becomes about it being integrated into the wider marketing conversation, to the wider marketing strategy, showcasing what you've done, what's happened over the long term, and showcasing the value to that. And then showcasing how the ROI at the end of the day, when you compare it to, let's say, other channels, is stronger here than it is in other places. But it's not a one-time thing. It's take a look back over the last 3 years. Look at the trajectories.
Yeah.
It's a much broader conversation, but it starts by having a seat at the table and being willing to have a conversation about where search fits into the other channels, not just like sitting in your own little corner of like the SEO of the marketing universe, like we're SEO. No, you want to be part of the wider marketing conversation and understand what the company is doing, what it's focusing on, and understanding, hey, we can come in here, we can do this, and we can probably do it cheaper. And that's the value, by the way, of SEO, because a lot of the times you get the same results cheaper.
Yeah. And it has to be SEOs that lead that conversation. Otherwise, it's not going to be realized, because most people in marketing, it's changing now, but marketing, SEO is still seen as a very, it's not seen in a good light.
Well, I'd say like it's the SEOs that think about things from a growth mindset. Because when they're able to see that SEO is not just a technical science or a technical procedure, or whatever you want to define it as, but it's part of a growth operation, those SEOs tend to be more integrated into the wider marketing conversation. They tend to have a seat at the table, which means they're able to translate what they believe in into the wider conversation around the marketing. And I generally find, like, looking back, that those are SEOs who end up not be, 5 years down the line, they're not SEOs anymore. They might still be SEOs, but now they're the leader of the growth team.
Yeah.
They're about organic growth. So now they're focusing on YouTube. They're all sorts of organic growth.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because, they start off as SEOs and then you lose them.
There's no limits to SEO.
But that's how it goes.
Yeah,
There's no limits. If you have a good mind for growth, you can apply what you've done to SEO to other areas, other channels, and it's great for your career if that's something you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of the things that attracted me to SEO, because I see myself as an area of my mindset is very creative. And I found SEO in the very beginning when I started to be an extremely creative channel. And I just loved the way it ignited my mindset, my brain. And I was like, okay, this is something I definitely want to invest my time into. And I find that SEOs, great SEOs, tend to have that sort of thinking, in that it's not just SEO. There's way more to SEO than just SEO. It's way more than links rankings.
It's a mindset.
Yeah, mindset. Yeah, correct.
I enjoy it because it's like hunting opportunity. What is this website? Who is this website? Based on that, like, where's the opportunity? And hunting that opportunity. Mm-hmm. And then that mindset of hunting opportunity, you can apply it to anything.
Yeah, agreed. Now, let's move on to ChatGPT. I'm hearing, let's say, again, as a CMO with a CMO hat on, I'm hearing great things about ChatGPT.
I'm sure you are.
It's going to be something that kills not just SEOs but Google, isn't it?
I think it's going to be something that's going to kill the web in a lot of ways. And I think Google will end up getting the blame for it. Unfairly. Right? And I see this, I hate using the term, but lower level marketers. Like your YouTube personalities of the world who talk about SEO or talk about marketing. The marketing gurus of the world.
Yeah.
And I have in my YouTube feed, I go to my phone, my YouTube feed, it's all GPT-3. Why you should be using it to write your site's content. All of it. Every single word. Do it now. And that's a bad idea. And I think that the smart CMOs will understand that if you're talking to an audience, you need to have content that's of a certain quality, of a certain threshold, at a certain level of engagement, and a certain kind of way of portraying. Content is your brand. In every way, from the tone to the complexity of it. If you're talking to, let's say you're trying to market a PhD program, and you're using ChatGPT to generate content, what are the chances that the language structure is going to be complex enough? Very low, very unlikely.
Yeah.
But that's a branding issue, because I'm talking to PhD students about whatever. They're going to expect a certain level of complexity in the language. You can call it academic bullshit if you want. It probably is, but that's what they're like. From a marketing perspective, that's what they're looking for. If you're going to rely on these AI writers for those kinds of things, I think you're in a world of trouble. And I think we're going to see, the problem is that they solve a lot of, content is hard.
Yeah.
Content is not easy. And for the average person, finding the time and the ability to write the content can be difficult. So I'll just have an AI write. The AI writer solves a really important pain point. It just doesn't do it well to the fullest extent. And if these sites take this advice, which they probably will, because it's very attractive, and they start spitting up content like this, you're going to have an influx of even worse. What's the AI writer doing? Is taking the crap that's out there, scraping it, pulling it back together, regurgitating, and making new crap.
Yeah.
And there's going to be an influx of repackaged crap on the web. Now, I will say, before all the people who love AI writers saying, "Oh, Mordy, you just hate it," I do, because I'm a writer. And I have a beef, and I'm biased. I get it. However, I do think that, look, if you're writing content like, how to change a tire, or why do I need snow tires? I don't know why I go to that example, but that's my example. How much novelty could I possibly add to that conversation already that hasn't been done a million times over already? Probably not much. And for content like that, fine. Take an AI writer. I don't care. I don't know, content like, the difference between cinder blocks and bricks. You're not going to add anything new to that conversation. And I think we're at the point where you can have an AI writer take that, regurgitate it, put it on your website. Fine, who cares? So for for top level, we'll call it short tail snippet like content, I think an AI writer could probably do the job. However, once you get into something that's more nuanced and more complex, which is probably like 90% of your content, or should be about 90% of your content, I don't think an AI writer can handle that yet. I don't think it ever will be able to handle that. Just by the nature of what an AI writer is and what makes the human mind unique from a philosophical point of view. I'm very skeptical of the AI taking over and being able to actually do it. But I guess time will tell. Prove me wrong, AI writers. Prove me wrong.
I'm finding it a very interesting prospect. It actually excites me for several reasons. One, I think it's going to have a lot of people thinking it's, as you mentioned, an easy way to solve a pain point and generate content without the arduous task of actually understanding one's audience and serving what one's audience wants and needs. So it's going to attract a lot of people to it. I think it's something that will lead to a lot of problems. to one site. And as an SEO consultant, it's great for my for my business, because it's going to lead to even more issues on websites. And I actually think, in a very extreme case, it could lead to SEOs almost recommending sites de-optimize or unoptimize, if that's a term. What I mean by that is, these
Yeah.
tools, they'll go ahead and think of the SEO, as people like to say it, the SEO keywords, which a phrase I really don't like. But they'll think of it from that point of view rather than from an audience point of view. And
Yep.
I don't know about you, but there are times when I look at a site, even on Google, when I look at Google, when I Google something, the SEO just jumps out at me, and it's almost annoying, because
All the time.
you see that as well, right?
All the time.
It's very annoying, because it's like, oh, it doesn't seem
It's not.
fresh,
It's
real.
cheap. It's
Yeah,
cheap.
yeah,
It cheapens it. I agree with you. Look, like I think one of the machine learning was built to profile language structures. That's what it's built to do.
mm-hmm.
And it's not hard. I think Google's already doing it. It's not hard to profile a language structure. Look, the AI testing tools do it. If you want to run
Yeah,
content through an AI writer, through a tool that tells you was it written by AI, what it's basically doing is looking at language structure and saying this language structure mimics something that a person would do versus what a machine would do. It's not hard. I mean, it's hard, obviously, because it's very complicated technology, but it's not hard given that we already have the technology.
yeah,
If you ask me, like, why I should use this vacuum cleaner, and I write back, it is good on floors. Okay, versus it's good on floors, but not for pet hair. That language structure is very obvious to you.
mm-hmm.
And I'm giving a very, hyperbolic or very, extreme example. But it's not so hard to profile language structure to realize that that person doesn't have experience, that person does, or that's written by a machine. This is humanized content. So when you say de-optimize it, I think it's very much where we're going to to a certain extent.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm finding that is like we're fast tracking to that point, because now I think the excellent SEOs will say everyone thinks of SEO as keywords. And from my experience, I've done so much knowledge sharing to business leaders to get away from thinking of SEO as keywords, rankings, and links. And it's unfortunate, because I think this is a very fast way for business leaders to get a grasp on SEO. And unfortunately, they're going to learn the hard way that it's not the approach that one should be using.
Even when I recommend it, to somebody, okay, I want you to, you should optimize your headers. I try not to use the word keyword. I'll try to tell them, try to make sure that the main topic of the page or the section is reflected in the header.
Oh,
I try to
brilliant
never
way of
use the
putting
word
it.
keyword.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a brilliant way of putting it.
Maybe they'll listen. Who knows?
I think we as an industry, we need to get away from this very prescriptive approach to SEO. I find it with audits, whether content, technical, there is almost like two schools of thought. One is to be very prescriptive and say, this is what needs to be done. Another approach is to be more collaborative and say, okay, this is the issue. I have a solution for it, but what do you think from your point of view is the solution to this very important issue that affects both of us? That is an approach that I personally prefer.
Yeah, and it gets more buy-in probably that way.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the reasons why I have a theory behind the prescriptive approach. I'm going to throw agencies under the bus, but so I have.
I already know where you're going.
Yeah. So from an agency point of view, I have a background as an client-side agency, and now as a consultant. Agencies, they pretty much focus. The end goal is to sell SEO. Bottom line is to sell SEO, and someone who's a technical SEO, let's say, at an agency, at an agency that sells technical SEO, that is their pillar. They pretty much have to be within that pillar, so they have to delve within the pillar. They can't, let's say, make recommendations around content, because that's not their area. So they have to be very prescriptive in order to serve what's considered as value. And a lot of the times, I've seen a number of SEOs say this similar thing. A lot of the times, being very prescriptive is almost SEOs showing how great they are at SEO, but they don't necessarily serve the brand, in my opinion, and that's a huge shame.
Yeah, I mean, agencies are in a tough spot in a lot of ways. Like, SEOs become a little bit more specialized, a little bit more niche, like each area a little bit more niche, let's say.
Yeah.
And that means that you have to bring more people on, which makes it more expensive, which you don't want to do. So you want one general to solve all of the problems, but that's not how SEO works anymore.
Yeah.
And now what? And it becomes really difficult for them. I'm not saying like the way they're handling it a lot of times is great, but it's an interesting predicament that they're in, because it's doing the job of doing good SEO is just more expensive. It's more specialized than it used to be. And I honestly will pitch it, like when we talk to, say, content marketing agencies, again, like we'll pitch it as, yes, you can do whatever you want with the platform. You can customize whatever, but you don't have to, because we'll do a lot of it automated for you as a default. So like we kind of lean into that depending upon the agency. Yeah, for more technical agencies, we'll lean into, yes, you can do whatever you want. It's flexible. But for an agency like a content marketing agency, where they don't necessarily want the flexibility per se, what they rather is the streamlinedness, they don't have to focus on that part of it so that they can do the content part. So we lean into that. Like, because that's where agencies are at. Like, we look at it as we can help democratize this. We can help content marketing agencies keep up with the SEO without them focusing their time on the SEO.
Yeah.
So, like, we think we're part of the solution for agencies when it comes to that.
What would you say?
I'm trying to help, is what I'm trying to say.
What would you say to SEOs who think you guys are taking away from value that they add? So you mentioned go ahead.
I would say two things. One is, it's the cool thing about like SaaS platforms in general run to a problem inevitably, and I've worked on this is my third SaaS platform, and that's you want to speak to a broad audience, but when you do that, you run into certain complexity. If you speak to a pro audience, you have the complexity, but then how do you make that accessible to a broad audience? And the platforms inevitably, particularly the SEO platforms, inevitably run into that wall. The cool thing about platforms like Wix are that you can engineer them in a way where you can make them both accessible and complex at the same time. So if you're asking me like, well, we do it for you, well, yes, but you have, I'll give you an actual example of this, but you have the option for us not to. So for example, structured data markup, we automatically add it to all of your product pages. So one of the good things about it being a closed CMS versus an open CMS, you're like, what? There's a good thing about that? Yeah. We understand the logic of the page, which means that we can build a markup for you automatically. You might say, I don't want to do that. In which case we say, fine, you can either update the markup we create for you and customize it. You can cancel it, create your own. You can leave it and add other markups on top of it. So if you're coming from the SEO, technical SEO side, say, I want to yes, go ahead. When we say that we automate and make it easier, it doesn't mean that we're not being customizable at the same time. We just make both possible. At the same time, I'll say, one of the, if you're coming from that mindset, and that's why I'm laughing, your end goal is to grow for your clients, create growth for your clients. I'm assuming that's your end goal, right?
Hopefully. Yeah.
Which means that the client budget should be maximized for growth. Are we on the same page here?
Yeah.
Great. If you're coming to Wix, and I'm not saying, I don't paint a linear picture, WordPress versus Wix. I think every site, I do not think every website should be on Wix. That's like healthy for the web. What I do advocate for is that there's opportunity cost. And given the particular scenario, the particular website, what's the opportunity cost between what WordPress offers you versus what Wix offers you?
Mm-hmm.
And look at it from that. Don't look at like this has that has this has that, this doesn't have that. What's the opportunity cost? And the opportunity cost for Wix as a concept is all of the money your client pays you goes to growth. It doesn't go to maintenance. It doesn't go to fixing sites that are down. We have 99.98% uptime. It doesn't go to fixing vulnerabilities from plugins. It doesn't go to any of that. It all goes to growth. So the $500 that you're spending every month on maintaining the website on a WordPress website, that's $500 that could go to more to social ads or to another piece of content.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at it from the bottom line of the client, that's why I'm laughing. Which platform is better as a concept?
Yeah.
Which platform is better? I'll let you decide. But I'm throwing the hat of Wix into the ring on that one, and pretty heavily. I'm biased, I know, but argue with that USP.
Yeah, it's SEOs are we're interesting. We're an interesting breed in that we can be very very negative. I just like do a random.
We're very
search on.
linear sometimes.
Yeah.
I'll give you a classic example. So I've been in a conversation with John Mueller of Google on this on Twitter. Well, someone will say you can't access your server on Wix. I'm like, that's totally true. You can't. Okay, but again, what's the opportunity cost? Like, why? Forget, like, it's like saying, like, oh, I have a broken link in my report. I got to fix that. The question is why? Not that you can't access the server. Why is that good? Why is that bad? For a certain website, you need to. Fine, I get it. For other websites, you'll just end up locking yourself out of the server. That was John's line, not mine. Like, why do you want to access the server? You're just going to lock yourself out. But let's say, fine, you won't lock yourself out. What's the opportunity cost of not having access to the server? By the way, we've automatically built in bot logs with automatic visualizations because we have control over the server. So you don't have to like connect to any fancy tool to create bot log reports. We do it automatically. But aside from that, do you remember when Amazon went down? Their servers went down, not Amazon.com. When the cloud went down, the servers went down.
Yeah.
It took half of the web down with it.
Yeah.
So great. You can access the server. Now what?
Yeah.
If you're using Amazon, now what? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
We use Amazon. We automatically moved all the Wix sites off of it onto another server. So while you and your access to the server were down, Wix sites were still selling shit online, and you weren't. Which is what I mean. Like it's not a good or a bad. Access to a server is not a good or a bad. There's benefits, and there's also cons to it. And it's a matter of weighing out which is important to you, and that's something you need to decide. But SEOs like to be I don't have access, it's bad. Not necessarily, because there's a positive that comes along with it. So look at things from opportunity costs. Don't look at things from check, not check.
Yeah. Good tip. I think SEOs are negative because of the way we think to always arrive at a solution. To arrive at a solution, you kind of need to find the problem. In our audits, we have issues, right? Before the solutions, we always have issues. So issues, but some admittedly get stuck with the issues point of view. And I've seen it just in general conversation. We tend to, with fellow SEOs, they are very, very, very negative. And I think that change of mindset, again, it speaks to our soft skills. As an industry, we're not very focused on soft skills. And I know that's something that, what's his name, is aiming to improve. Not Will, but his brother. Is it Will Critchlow?
Tom Critchlow?
Tom, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I know that's something he's aiming to improve, and I'm all for him doing that.
I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Look, it comes back to what we were talking about before. You have these like checklists, and you look at the checklist, and it's a very linear approach to the checklist. And like, okay, good, bad, not good, not bad. Like, it's all very kind of linear. But we leave out things like, for example, SEOs, when they consider like, I need to do this, I need to do that. I have to do this, I have to do that. What happens when you walk away from the website? What's going to happen to the website after you're gone?
Yeah.
And that should factor into how you're thinking about it. Because, by the way, the client, you hand off the website. The next day, there's a hack. I'm leaving SEO aside from there's a hack. And now the website's all screwed up. Nothing works anymore. Now, you didn't do that. You did what you had to do. Is the client going to look at it that way? Or is the client going to look at it, you gave me a website, the next day it's broken?
Yeah.
It's like you go to buy a car, a used car. You buy a used car, it's fine. The next day the battery's dead. It might have nothing to do. It just happens to be the battery died the next day. You're going to go, you know what, you go back to the dealer, you son of a bitch, you sold me a car, it's all screwed up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We need to start looking at things a little bit more holistically because everybody else is, and the people who are paying our bills are.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Mordy, I'm a big fan of your work. I love the way you guys are using SEO at Wix. The whole idea of like branding with SEO, just as a concept in itself, just fascinates me. And I love you guys' podcast as well. So yes,
I'm very flattered.
Thank you. Keep doing what you guys are doing. It's the start of the year.
Thank you.
So what do you think? What are you looking forward to for the year from a business point of view?
I'm looking forward to bringing SEO to new markets. I think it's one of the cool things we get to do at Wix is that we get to speak to a very, very large audience, and to people who may not have been thinking so much about SEO. Well, let's take a digital marketing agency. They focus very much on PPC. That's like their bread and butter, but they do a little bit of SEO. I think that a solution like Wix can help them, and I'm looking forward to making SEO more of a focus to those kind of agencies because Wix lets them do that in a way that's scalable for them. So that's cool for me.
Yeah. Would you say
democratizing SEO for everybody?
Democratizing SEO for everyone. Yes, I love it. Would you say, lastly, that it kind of acts as a crutch for SEOs? So if you're helping non-SEO, this is the background to this question is the whole idea of democratizing SEO. Some SEOs view as again with this negative mindset as a threat, and they see it as actually this is not helpful for SEO by helping non-SEOs or professionals that are not SEOs with SEO. You're leaving SEO in a vulnerable position where they're not able to be SEOs anymore. What's your thoughts around that?
Hogwash. Nonsense. Ridiculousness. Someone asked John Mueller about this, right? But John was saying, I think, one point that, he imagines a while ago, he imagines a tool, like an AI kind of tool that can help you write headers. And that you may not need to optimize your headers the same way. So like, oh, does that mean we don't need SEO? So I was like, what are you talking about? It just means that SEO evolves. SEO becomes different. SEO becomes new opportunities arise.
Yeah.
It may mean shifting a little bit. It may mean rethinking things a little bit. But ultimately, it means more opportunity. The more people who appreciate SEO, the more people who are focused on SEO. Look, okay, let's just say like this. Let's say it pans out. Let's say I speak to a digital marketing agency who's not very much focused on SEO. They dabble a little bit. And I get them more involved in SEO because SEO on Wix lets them do that. And now they run into a problem, right? A complication in their SEO strategy, let's say. And it's beyond them. So now they'll go to an SEO consultant and say, hey, we've been working with this client. We're using Wix. We're doing a lot of SEO at scale with it. But now we have a more complicated scenario, and we don't know the right path forward. What do we do? Well, now you have another SEO client if you're a consultant, don't you?
Yeah, it's great for my business.
If you have I don't see, like, the more people who are interested in SEO, the more people who are talking about SEO, the more people who are SEO is relevant for, brings more awareness and business ultimately to SEO if you're able to pivot and target that kind of audience.
Yeah.
So my question, like, I'll throw it back, like, how good of a marketer are you? Because if you're a good marketer, you should be able to capitalize on it.
Yeah. it goes to that growth mindset as you mentioned earlier, doesn't it? It's like SEO is not
The
just
web is moving. I think SEOs need to understand it's not about this platform or that platform or their GPT, whatever it is. The web as a whole is always moving, but it's at a point where it's noticeable now. And everyone needs to pivot. And I'm saying SEO in general, like everyone needs to pivot at certain points.
I get you.
And it is what it is. Those who pivot will thrive, and those who don't pivot will whatever.
Yeah, well, perhaps there weren't SEOs in the first place. So that's my rather harsh view on it. But
you said it, not me. So I don't have to step on that landmine. You already did.
Mordy, thank you so much for your time. Am I pronouncing your name correctly, by the way? Is it Mordy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yes, you got it.
I forgot to ask you at the start. I was
We're good. I would have corrected you. Don't worry.
Okay, yeah. Brilliant. Where can people find you online?
I'm generally on Twitter at Mordy Oberstein. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Mastodon, sort of, kind of, a little bit. So I guess there too. That's a whole interesting experience. So those are the three places. I technically on Facebook, but I don't like Facebook.
It's a conversation for another time. Facebook. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Mordy. To stay 1 or 2 minutes right after I hit the stop the recording, we can have a little powwow at the end.
Nice.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mordy. We'll catch up again soon.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. Thank you. Bye now.